Hey everyone, thanks for joining for another Coffee with Kittl. Today we're about to drop some mad knowledge on you Etsy sellers. I have Hannah with me, and we are going to be going through what it looks like to scale. Make more money on Etsy. I think everybody wants that. I want that. I have several Etsy shops. All of them are like very average, very baseline. So I'm excited to learn with you. I got a notebook right here in case I need to jot down notes. But first, Hannah, I want you to briefly introduce yourself. I want you to talk a little bit about your channel. And then after that, we'll kind of set the stage for what we're going to talk about in this. I guess this is kind of going to be a little webinar, I suppose. And then at the end, you'll get to introduce this really cool tool that I think people will be super interested in. So how about you take it away with a little bit about yourself and your channel?
Awesome. Thank you, Drew. Thank you so much for having me. Yeah, so I'm Hannah. I'm from the Ecom Hannah YouTube channel. I'm a fellow e-commerce seller. I've been selling on Etsy. Shopify are my two main sales channels. I've also dabbled, well, not dabbled. I also do Fair, wholesale, and Wayfair as well.
Nice.
And so I'm still an active Etsy seller. My first company was fast fashion jewelry. And I have another company that I decided to start somewhere in there with now that's a family company that is a home decor brand. And both of those have live on Etsy. And basically during somewhere in that, I was like, oh, let me start documenting this journey on YouTube, basically. And so I started sharing, like a lot of all Etsy YouTubers, I started sharing all my information, basically every single thing that I learned along the way for free on the Ecom Hannah YouTube channel. And that was started back in like 2018, 2019.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
so, here we are today, and now getting into new ventures in the Etsy software space, all that type of stuff. But still an active handmade seller. I don't actually
Nice.
do print on demand or anything like that.
Interesting. Okay, cool. So this is really exciting to get this side of the Etsy because I feel like a lot of Etsy transitioned into this drop shipping print on demand-esque thing, but we forget that it was first for this kind of handcrafted hand goods, almost antique like style, fashion, trinkets, gifts, all that kind of stuff. When I just wanted to back up and ask a question about something you said. You said one or two of the companies or shops lived on Etsy, and are you meaning to say now that they scaled in so much as that you've left Etsy now, like they scaled out of that and now they're kind of their own thing, or they still live on Etsy?
No, so they totally still live on Etsy, still
Okay,
make
okay.
daily sales on Etsy, but did scale off of Etsy. So I feel like
So
contingent.
you added off of Etsy.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
And this is, contingent. What I tell people, it's contingent on what your goals are. Like if your goal is to become like more of a household name, Etsy is a really great starting point. And then, you can eventually, that can manifest into a Shopify store or,
Okay.
doing Fair or Wayfair or Amazon or whatever you want. But Etsy is really like freshman year e-commerce. It's really as easy as it gets.
Yeah,
And
for
that's
sure.
where you acquire all those skills, you gain that confidence, you prove to yourself that people want to give you money for things that you have to sell, all those things. So yeah, they're primarily the two main revenue streams for both of those brands is Etsy and Shopify.
Gotcha. Okay, well, that's good. So that kind of sets the stage then for our conversation about scaling and what that looks like for the beginner all the way up to those who are probably a little bit more moderate to advanced, right? They've been on the Etsy game for a while and maybe they're looking to go to the next level. But I think there's going to be information in this that's just as good for the beginner or someone that's in the midst of trying to scale or grow, whether that looks like scaling designs or whatever they might be making. Those of you handcrafted, shout out hand illustration and handcraft goods or whatever. So I think a good place to start would be, we were just talking a second ago before we started recording. I had made a comment that's like, because most people are afraid. And there was a couple of things that we were talking about that people are afraid of. One of them is ads. But I'm sure there's other things that are stopping scalability from just being afraid of stuff, whether they be like, okay, starting, that's probably a good one. You should start. If you're afraid, I think you should get in and start it. That's probably one fear. But like maybe there is some hindrance here from scalability. And so is there like some things that you've learned, some myths we can dispel some fears that would stop this scaling? Does that question make sense?
Yeah, 100%. Two
Okay.
things. I heard two things in that. So the first thing, so if you want to grow on Etsy specifically, right? Every sales channel has its own needs, wants, fears, and goals, right? A Shopify engine is very different than an Etsy engine. An Etsy engine is very different than an Amazon. Even though you might be selling all
True.
the same brand, it's basically three completely different business models. So if you have to ask yourself, what's your goal? So if your goal is to hit your max potential or go as high as you can go on Etsy, and your goal is to be on Etsy, then it's in your best interest to play the game of Etsy in the way that Etsy wants you to play the game. So every third-party selling platform, right? You don't own Etsy. I don't own Etsy. I'm playing in someone else's sandbox. So that means that there's a set of rules that I need to follow in order to win at that game. Just like you play Monopoly, right?
Yeah.
There's rules, and you strategize to not only win for yourself, but also you're trying to play with their rules to the best ability so you can win. Like if you cheat, you get caught, like it's not going to work, right? So you want to follow the rules. So to win on Etsy specifically, I can't speak for Shopify, TikTok Shop, all that stuff, but if your goal again is Etsy, right? There's two things that grow your shop and scale it to the max. The first one is that you have a consistent inflow of innovation and product launches happening. There's no other, you can't make more money on Etsy other than launching things consistently and testing new products and scaling your ads to the max. And anyone that argues like social media or TikTok, that's another, like we can talk about that in a second. But in the way that I see it, to play the game in the way that Etsy wants you to play it is you're innovating on your product line consistently on a small hedges over long periods of time. It's a marathon, not a sprint. And then number two is getting your ads to the max. And other than doing those two things, there's no really other way to grow. You can do Pinterest, you can do social media, but if you're so good at social media that you can get sales from your content, I would never drive that to an Etsy shop. I would drive that to a Shopify store.
Oh,
right?
okay. I see. Yeah. Drive them to the captive place to keep them, on your terms. Yeah. Okay. I see.
Right. Like some people, the biggest argument to get to that is like, that's not true. You can do social media. I'm like, well, I'm not going to run meta ads to my Etsy shop to pay a 6.5% selling fee. That's why you pay that fee, right? I would run ads to my website. Right. Or, I do utilize the Instagram for retargeting my Etsy customers, right? Like I'll drive them to Instagram, right? But the bulk of your growth, right? Like 80% of your growth is going to come from organic and from ads, right? And then the maybe 5% that you get from Pinterest and maybe the, 10, 15% that you get maybe from retargeting on Instagram, right? And again, if you're so good at social media that you can actually make sales off of your content because you're an influencer, then drive that traffic to your own shop, right? Somewhere else, right? But to win on Etsy specifically, you have to do those two things. And so the first one, to your point, when you ask the question, when people, I want to say maybe not sabotage, it's not that they're sabotaging or they even consciously are trying to not scale. It's just they get caught up in things that don't really matter. So they start thinking, oh, I need to open up another shop, or oh, I need to set up a Shopify store, when really like they're not even ready for Shopify because they just get distracted with things that don't really matter.
Shiny object syndrome.
That is one, right? Yeah. Or like the biggest one I would say is like they start getting caught up in like they want to do social media, but again, social media is a whole different
takes
engine.
Its own work, right? Yeah.
It's a whole full-time job. It's a whole different thing. You can do that, but it's not your best hour spent, dollar spent, time spent if you want to win on Etsy. So again, the whole premise of this is if you want to win on Etsy, right? Your best dollar, your best hour spent is playing the game of Etsy in the way that Etsy wants to play it. So that means innovating your product line, launching new things, getting into categories to expand your searchability. So if you're selling pillow covers, then sell wall art, then sell blankets, right, on the platform. So you're reaching your customers and get your ads to the max. And that's basically scaling. That's all it takes to scale on Etsy.
Okay. So then let's break these two pivotal pillars apart then. And so that people that are, beginning or want to go to the max, they know what to do on both sides. So you're saying things like innovating your product line or new drops releases. That's point one. And then scaling ads, the one that everybody's really afraid of, right? Because it means you have to pay for it. But let's start with one, and then we'll go to the second one. So when you say innovate your product line, I want to unpack that a little bit in terms of what that means to scale both effectively and like just say efficiently. But what I mean is like people are going to want to know like, how do I do that? Like fast, not fast as in like I want to cut corners, but like, how do I improve the way that I do that for our audience? For those of you watching, those of you that use Kittl, and for the rest of the design audience, or for the handcrafted makers, hopefully everybody's going to get positive information, practical information out of this. But let's keep in mind that a lot of our audience is doing design. They are designing, and most of the time using print on demand to sell things like you said, whether it be home decor or whether they're going to go into merch or something like that. But I think hopefully what you might lay out for us works on multiple levels. Whatever you're going to sell, there's always another product that you can sell. So can you unpack that point one about playing the organic game, scaling the organic game? Because I feel like everybody has this magic number they've probably heard over the last year or 2 years, which is like, I just got to get to 100 listings. You know what I mean? I got to get to 100 listings, which I think if you have a clear plan and you're like a branded store, that's why I really like my friend Scott over at Brand Creators. He's all about like, have a branded store. And I love that idea. It's instead of a general store. I think you can succeed in a general store, but it's different conversation. I think if you can have a branded store and you can get to 100 listings adequately and they all make sense together and they all look nice and neat in the profile, sure. But maybe you can lay out what would be a better method for scaling on the organic side. That's not really a question. I guess it's more of an ask.
Yeah, no, it makes sense.
Okay.
So from the organic side, so in terms of the amount of listings you have, I think a couple of things here. So you're never, it's a consistent inflow over long periods of time. So it's good to look at who your competitors are. Like that's the starting point. Who are the shops that are doing really good in a short amount of time that are attracting the same customer avatar as me? So if I'm doing specifically a dog niche, right? Who are my POD digital download dog competitors out there? How many listings do they have? That is not the standard. Their number of listing is the opportunity. So that means that whatever your consistent inflow is per your goals, your goal is that you're going to try to produce a consistent inflow of listings to beat that person. Now, it's not always just about quantity. So it's not just about, hey, let me just try. It's not like what I'm saying here, but that's the KPI. You're said it's the number. All that number is of your competitor is to keep you accountable to make sure that you're doing the weekly thing that you have to do to get there. But that's not where you're ending. There's not like an end number, right? It's a consistent inflow. So like you pick that number based off of what's realistic to you. So if you realistically can make 3 listings a week, right? Then you calculate, I can make 3 listings a week, but I need to get X amount of listings in this year to hit my goal. So I need to be doing this X amount of number per week to hit that goal, right? And all these numbers and projections do is just to keep you accountable to doing it. The worst thing that you can do is be like, I need 500 listings. And then you punch that out in 30 days. And now you just burned yourself out and you want to kill yourself. And like you didn't reach your goal because you just rushed through it. Like that's not winning.
Yeah. And they're probably not going to be as good as if you took the extra time on them.
Correct. It's not about sprinting and like never getting the finish line. It's about being consistent over long periods of time, just like anything, going to the gym. So that's one thing. Another thing was when in terms of that inflow, right? The way that we treat, I look at your listings as like a filtration system, right? And so you're going to post things and and the algorithm is going to say yes to some things and probably not yes to a lot of things. And that's normal, even in my space, right? Out of every 100 listings we launch, maybe 40% of them sell consistently, right? And that ratio is different per your niche, right?
Sure.
And that's a normal thing, right? And so we want to treat our listings as I say it like this. It's like every new thing that we create is the latest, best, worst version of the last version. Does that make sense?
The latest, best, worst version of the last thing.
Yeah, it's the latest, best, worst version. So it's the newest, best thing that I have that is probably still bad, but it's going to be better on the next one. Or maybe it's not.
Got it. Yes. Okay.
Right? Like you're always improving. So like if you looked at my photography when I first started versus my photography after 365 days of photography every freaking day, right? It's a whole new program. Looks completely different, right? 100%. And so what we're doing is that we're getting better every single day. And
Mm.
as we're posting, as we're giving it to the algorithm and seeing how the algorithm, reacts to it,
Yeah.
we're then competing against ourselves,
Mm.
approving on our last best metrics, right? So
Okay.
we post
Okay.
100 listings for the first time, 10% of them take off. 10 of
Got it.
our Kittl designed
Yeah.
listings take off, right? So now what were we going to do? We are going to now compete against ourselves to try to improve upon what's already working.
100%.
So if we saw that a design on a Printify notebook that says letters to my daughter with a little sketch of a little girl on a
Mhm,
notebook,
mhm. Yeah.
right? And that was the design that's doing really, really well. Okay,
Mhm.
well, what about letters to my twins? And then there's two little girls.
Oh,
What
okay.
about letters to my son? What about letters to my sons, right? And then it's like all of a sudden you just took this one best-selling listing, and now you just turn that into maybe 20 potential more based off of what your own data is telling you is working
Right.
for your specific shop.
Yes.
And so the data, you're always putting things in,
Mhm.
collecting the data, and then innovating and doing better of what was there, what was working previously. And when you
Right.
have this engine, this cyclical engine happening on a consistent basis, that's how you just build your Etsy moat stronger and stronger and stronger. And particularly when I like that example that I just gave you, right? Particularly what I don't just look at my best sellers.
Mhm.
What I really like to look at is what listings are making me the most profit, right? Because we want to give our
Hmm.
next minute, our next hour spend, not just to our best-selling listings, because you can have best-selling listings, but they're not the ones that are necessarily making the most profit. And
Oh,
so obviously
interesting. Okay.
that's obviously where ProfitTree comes in, our tool that basically gives you back your profit, real-time profit, not only on your store level, but on every individual listing that you sell and on every individual product you sell. So listings are comprised of products. So like one listing could have 50 products in it, right? And maybe
Oh, right, right,
maybe
right.
maybe in that listing, out of those 50 products in that one listing, there's only
Mhm.
two that sell.
Like
But
like, for example, like, just to break it down for people that's having a hard time visualize, like,
yeah,
if you have a hoodie and you have, like, 18 colors,
right.
there might be 2 colors that are just crushing it, right?
Right. And
Okay.
maybe those two colors are not the colors being advertised in the thumbnail.
Exactly,
Right.
yes,
So
yes,
then
exactly.
you're following your own data of what's working and
Mm.
just doing more on top of more of what
And
is
and
working.
and when you said, just so that I also have a good idea as well as everybody else, you said sometimes you said best-selling listing and the listing that's making you the most profit aren't always the same. Now, the only when you said that, I was like, how can I make that math real quick? So the math there would be like, yes, this is a best-selling listing, but maybe it's $5. And the one that's making me the most profit is a $40 item that doesn't make as many sales, but it makes me more money. Is
Right.
that an accurate assessment of that?
Exactly. And
Okay.
so if you have 3 days in your calendar this week to go reiterate on a product,
Mhm.
do you want to invest your time on the $5 one or the one that's actually making you the most money?
Make more money. Got
Right.
it.
So
Yes.
you want to follow the profit, not, I call revenue a vanity metric a lot. So
Hmm.
vanity metrics are like feel good metrics, things that
Yeah,
make
sure.
you feel like you're doing good, but it's
Yeah, like
almost
the page views one.
page
Pointless.
views,
Nope.
favorites. I get all these favorites, right? But the
Yeah.
only thing that really matters is what's making you the most money because that's where you want to put your most time. And
Mhm.
as a solopreneur, your time is the biggest thing working against you because your customer
Mm.
service, your design, you're doing
Mhm.
mock-ups, you're
Mhm.
doing trying to be creative at the same time, right? So
Yes.
every hour of your day should be
Mm.
spent to only things that are yielding you the best return, right?
Let me ask you real quick about the favorites question, because this is very much a house I live in. I definitely get favorites all day long, every day, with minimal sales. Not to say that I don't make any sales, but this is a real life example I can provide to you, and then maybe you can tell me how you would interpret the data. I think I already know because I just put it together when you just explained that. But like, as someone that maybe feels like I do, where it's like, golly, I get the same. Like, I sell digital stuff, so fonts, packs, things like that. There's all these people favoring it and putting it in their little catalogs and stuff. I'm like, why don't you freaking buy the thing? Anyway, um, what should I do with that data? Like, how would you first assess that? You say, okay, I'm getting lots of likes or saves on this thing, meaning, uh, it's getting views. They must be visiting the page. I guess they don't have to. I guess you can save it from the page. I guess you don't have to click through the page. What would I take from that to maximize this profitability on it? Like how would I turn that data of like I'm getting lots of hearts into like please buy the product?
So I don't care about anything other than profit. So
Right.
I don't even look at it because favorites don't tell me if I'm making money, basically.
Okay.
I don't,
Okay.
it's really
No, that's good.
even
That's good. Yeah.
like, we'll probably get into this one in an ad, but it's the same thing when people talk about, um, even clicks or CPC, right? Like they get caught
Yes.
up in things that
Yeah.
just don't matter. And
Right.
it's like that energy is better spent just following the thing that does matter.
Made
And
money in the first place.
it's not like anyone's fault, but it's just like the only thing that matters is what's making me more money and how do I do more of that
Mhm.
at the end of the day. And that's why, you know, like the biggest Amazon sellers don't rely on Amazon data. They're always going to use like a third party, like a ProfitTree equivalent, like Rev Seller or Sellerize. We don't work with Amazon, but like it's because the platform. It's not that they're lying to you about your metrics. It's just
Mhm.
they're going to make it seem like what feels good, right? They want to show you all the hearts and
You
the
talking about
favorites.
the native? You talking about the native tool, like native Amazon data, native Etsy data? It's
Right.
going to
Like
tell you what feels good.
when you're selling somewhere, like historically, you don't want to rely on the biased third party to give you your sales information
Mhm.
because they're going to display it how it feels good
Mm.
instead of what you
Okay.
actually need to see, right?
Sure.
If that makes
Sure. No, it
sense.
does. It does. No, I think a lot of people need to hear that because I think it can be. It's kind of its own vanity metric, I guess, like hearts.
Right.
It's like kind of like likes on a Instagram post, which is
Right.
like great if you're in the revenue share program and you can make a lot
Yep.
of money. But if you're not, it's like I mean, what is the point?
There-
Other than to know that they like this content. So I guess there's that. You can take respite in that. Or like, okay, well, I know that the people are saving this for some reason. I don't know that maybe they won't buy my product, but they clearly have an interest in this style in this thing. So you can kind of use that data. But I think people need to hear that. It's like, don't get discouraged with the whole like, why aren't people buying my product? It's like it's just a thing. It's just like people mood boarding basically on Pinterest. They're just doing it on Etsy. So it's like focus on the listings that are making you money, right?
Right. Exactly. Yep. I mean, and if you're like really just first starting out and you're really
Mhm.
not getting too many sales, the only thing that I would say is like a real performance indicator is the add to carts. So that's what,
Oh, okay.
if something is actually hot, right? A
Mhm.
favorite isn't an intent to buy, an add to cart is actual step to buying. So like sometimes you have to do like file, view in an incognito window to see your add to carts, or you have to go and add it to cart from an incognito window to see the number of
Yep.
added carts.
Which is kind of
Um,
frustrating, right?
yeah, right. But that's the only actual like something that I think is important to look at.
Mm.
If you're just trying to decide on if it's really early on, I just want to see.
Yeah.
Favorites. I don't think I've ever checked that once.
Yeah, I think it just shows up on your dashboard. It just says
Okay.
such and
Yeah.
such liked this. Or if you have the Etsy seller app, it'll
Mhm.
ding and it'll be like, "Oh, dang, I thought it was a sale. It's just a like." Like,
Oh, man.
yeah. Um, I wanna talk also about what you think on these little nifty tools that seem to always uh, be being added in Etsy's platform. Things like running a sale, things
Mhm.
like the email,
Mhm.
abandoned cart email, discount email, thank you email, and
All of
then
them.
now there's a whole bunch of golly, there's a bunch of stuff. Now you can encourage bigger orders. I think if you do like a save and bundle thing, or you can encourage larger orders with a discount. There's all these things. I'm gonna assume that it's somewhere in your recommendation to also utilize those in your organic pillar before we hop over to
Yeah.
the paid pillar. So is there anything there you'd like to unpack in those little extra features? We'll just call them features.
Yeah, I mean, anytime a platform is giving you the opportunity to participate in a promotion and
Yes. Yeah.
yes, it's just the answer is yes. Like
Yes.
yes, try to do it. Try to hop on the bandwagon because that can only help. It can only hurt, right? That is a part of I guess that is a part of playing the game. That is the part of the game of Etsy,
Mm,
right? It's the same thing on Amazon. You have the click and save discount codes. Same thing on Wayfair.
yeah,
You can run holiday sale. It's all the
right.
same. So 100%.
Yeah, I would definitely do your best to utilize all of those. I try my best to run weekly sales and not just set it for the whole month. And almost always, again, this everybody's going to be different. I'm selling digital specific stuff, but almost always when I set that brand new sale, like after it's been off for like 3 or 4 days and I forgot, and I turned it back on, like the next day there's a sale. Like,
Mhm.
because it's just like, I don't know, it's just everybody's like, ooh, 30% off. It's like, it's a digital product. I'll make as much as I want on it because I made it once. Maybe a little bit different. I don't know if I would throw 30% off on every hoodie that you do print on demand.
Yep.
But is there, I want to ask like one or two other questions while we're in the organic bucket. And that's about, so you, let me make sure I phrase this correctly. So you started with research, great place to start, meaning we're going to look at our competitors. At this point, I'm assuming we already know kind of the niche we're in. We know what we're going to sell. We've got an idea of products that we're going to lay out. And we talked about how many listings ideally we could manage during a week. And we're going to use our competitors to say, like, I don't have to get 400 listings this month, but it is a metric that I want to try to break because that's the opportunity that we can reach. Is there some sort of method playbook that you follow when listing a new product? Is it like daily if you can? Are you doing multiple listings within one day? Is it better to do one listing per day? Is it like, is there, I guess people are probably going to be Googling and YouTubing if there's some kind of magic number. Obviously there's not, but I do think that there's a method that works well for certain people. And I'm just wondering if there was ever a method for you. Are you like a bulk kind of, I have a bulk design orchestrate day, and then I have a bulk upload day, and then I have a bulk set it live day, or is it one at a time? Does that make sense?
Yes, yes, 100%. Okay, so here is what we do in our system, our engine, right? And obviously this is for handmade, but obviously,
Mm-hmm.
the same system can kind of apply to you.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
every month, right, we have a consistent new 10 designs happening.
Okay.
So those designs are going to turn into either 20 to 30 actual listings,
Got
right?
it. Okay. Good to
Right.
know. Good to know.
And then on top of it, we're also in the 10 new designs, we're also checking to see what products that we have on the shelf used to sell but are downward trending, and can we repackage those, reshoot those, and see if we can revive them, right? Because listings have lifespans, right?
Oh,
Products,
interesting. Okay. Yeah.
yeah, like listings will have, like, you might have a listing with ads on and it's hitting like 10x ROAS for like 6 months, and then all of a sudden you see a slow decline. Like, this is a normal thing, right?
Sure.
And so when that happens, there's only one thing you can really do. You can just run it again with a new image and try it again and see if it hits the algorithm different. Copy and run again,
You
basically.
mean like completely unlist that listing, brand new listing?
Not unlist it, duplicate it, and run it again against itself
Oh, got
and
it.
see,
Okay.
and see if it
Oh,
revives.
yes, yes,
But
yes. I've heard of this method before. Yes.
right. And so that's really all you can do. And then if you run it again and test it a few more, like test the main image, maybe one or two more times, if it doesn't hit the algorithm again, then it's the actual product is on its way out and no one wants to buy it anymore. So basically, what we do is that we'll launch 10 new actual designs, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then we'll bring in some products that were selling historically good, but on their way out, to re-put them into that photo shoot, right? So
Repackage
for you don't have to do a photo shoot. It's just basically
mock-ups or
testing
whatever
mock-ups,
the design is.
testing,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? You're just testing, right? And so now we have 15 products that we're going to shoot, and then we go do the photo shoot. And
Mm-hmm.
in that photo shoot, we're getting multiple thumbnail images to test in different environments,
For sure. For
different
sure.
like that. So I'll do, inside shots, outside shots,
Mm.
different color backgrounds, all that stuff.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so now those 15 products that are, well, the first 10 are going to yield 20 to 30, right? So we're going to end up with like probably 40 new listings every single month,
Okay.
right? Because we're going to launch those would split test them with different main images, basically. And so
Yeah.
this is where we're getting like a mix of old stuff and retesting old stuff, but also having consistent new stuff. But just because it's 10 new designs, it doesn't mean it's 10 new listings. That because we bundle things together, which obviously has nothing to do with like it doesn't relate to print on demand. So I'm just trying to make it as simple as possible. So we're basically trying out old stuff, new stuff, and then split testing the main image to make 30 to 40 new listings, basically.
100%, 100%.
Mhm.
But I think that's important because even if you don't do the revitalization of the old listings and you just go with having new designs, and then so now you're going to have them on these products, I think this is actually another hurdle, another blocker of people saying like, I'm just thinking of where I might be if I started like, these are my 10 designs. They're limited to the product that I'm putting it on, and that's it. So I think in a lot of people's minds, 10 designs is 10 listings. Like
Mhm.
that's it. I think that's one of the hurdles. Like they're
Mm.
not sure how to adapt, maybe if we do speak on print on demand, or like, I mean, you don't have to. Like my brother has a streetwear thing, and he still makes designs in Kittl and in other programs, and has other products, and uses the same design on multiple products: hoodie, shirt,
Mm.
hat, whatever. Like there are still, you can do the same thing in print on demand. So
Mhm.
it's like, I think the encouragement here would be like, don't lock yourself to one design is one product. I think
Yeah.
that's like a big, I don't know. I think that's a big hurdle. I don't know if, I mean, clearly you have a good system that's like
Yeah.
you already have that in mind. So it's not really a blocker, but it's like, I think people need to have that in their head before they do all of their exporting and uploading,
Right. And I think a part of this is following a system. So like everyone's
Mm,
system, and so the worst thing that you can do, and I have a whole video I just post on this because it was also the downfall of most of us, is that you don't have a system. And so you basically your days, your
for
weeks, your
sure.
months are left to randomness of
Very much.
reactionary effort of, oh, one second I'm customer service, next second I'm designing, next second I'm trying to get a mock-up, next second I'm looking at my customer service. And this, I'm sorry, next second I'm looking at competitor analysis, right? This randomness, one, leads to a lot of anxiety, but also
Mm,
it leads to a lot of maldirection and like no consistency, right? If
100%.
you are going to work, you need to work on one task at a time.
Yes.
And I
That's
think
good.
that when you're doing things, even if it's your customer service, if you're doing your design, if you're doing listing optimization, right? Whatever that, when you're doing it, actually formulate a system. Write
Mm,
down your system. Step one, I do this. Step two, I do this. And when you take it out of your body and put it on paper, that keeps you accountable to what you just created. And that was a really big issue that I had. And I can promise you, if I knew that concept when I first started, I would have been way more successful. But I
yeah.
didn't. And so and to answer your point, is yes, it is a hurdle, and the reason it's a hurdle is because you haven't defined your system and you're not keeping accountable to that system, and that's
Mm,
why you get distracted after 2 seconds and you start doing something else.
yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, that's good. And I think, yeah, the initial advice about kind of like what's going to be my listing strategy, what's going to be my amount, things like this for the month. I think it's really good because it now allows people to go and create their own. Like for you, it's 10, which is going to, be equal to this amount of products. For some people, maybe it's 5, maybe it's 3.
Mhm.
Right? Doesn't mean it's only 3 listings. It's just 3 designs, which means it's going to be 15 product. I don't know, whatever it is. So now that they can figure that out and work that into the system, so that's really good. And I think a lot of people need to hear that. So let's transition into just diving off the deep end into the conversation that no one seems to want to have, which is ads. And we're not talking about hiring an ad agency to make ads for you. We're just talking about ads that are contained within Etsy. I've had a conversation in the past with Scott from Brand Creators about ads, and he loves ads.
Mhm.
I think he would tell you that first. I believe, I think this is the right number. I think he tried to set the number at 10,000 a day, and it wouldn't let him do it, or something like that. Maybe I'm misquoting. You can go back into the Coffee with Kittl and hear the word that he tried to max out the amount of ad spend that he could do per day, and it wouldn't let him put in whatever number it was. Like they
Yep.
won't even allow that amount. And his point was like, I'll give it to you if you can bring me the traffic. And it's like
Right.
at that, clearly there's some sort of threshold, but for him, he's had a lot of success with ads, and it's definitely a part of the strategy. So I think this is very much a real thing. And there's a lot of fear that people have with starting it. And I think it's either because they don't understand what's happening. They probably also, if you're like me in the beginning, you're like, well, I'm going to set this at $5 a day, $6 a day, $7 a day. And if I don't make any sales this week, then I'm out 30 something dollars, 40 something dollars, whatever. You rack it up. But like, this is how you play the game, kind of like in the algorithm, like there is an aspect of paying to play. And I think we need to just unpack it in a way that doesn't scare people, but excites people. I think
Yes.
that's the opportunity that you can have from putting skin in the game. So I don't really know what the questions are because I run limited ads myself because I'm still a baby. I do it, but I do it nominally, like frugally. But I don't have any questions because I don't know what I'm doing. So I'm going to let you just walk through the paid aspect of Etsy and give us that optimistic opportunity vibe, if you will.
Okay. Let's see. Where can we start here? Well, if it gives you any comfort, okay. Let's start here. Okay. So since I've been on Etsy, I've spent over $450,000 on ads.
That is a lot of money. That's several houses, probably. Maybe one house in this year, but yeah.
So if I did not spend that money, my profit would have been probably a quarter of that. Right.
Got it.
So let's just set the foundation of what Etsy ads do and
Okay.
what it does for your shop
Okay.
on the highest level.
Okay.
And just like I just actually posted a video on my channel of my second shop, right?
Okay.
So ads that we wouldn't have this conversation right now if you didn't actually make more profit, because otherwise it wouldn't matter. So last year alone with my second smaller shop, we just ran the numbers. We spent $43,000 on ads. If we didn't spend $43,000 on ads in 2023, we would have had a minimum loss of profit of $34,000, not revenue, profit. So we made an additional minimum amount of extra profit of $34,000. And I say minimum because we were running ads in 2022. So there is a whole bunch of attribution that you can't even take out of that $34,000 because we were running ads the previous year, right? You can't think of all the repeat buyers, all the reviews we collected in 2022, and now people are purchasing off those reviews that happened from ads last year.
Yeah.
Right? There's all these things that happen. So what do ads do to your store on the highest level? The first thing is that it gives you more profit if you do it correctly. The second thing is that it tells the algorithm, it tells Etsy that you're willing to compete against the guy that's not willing to compete. So all the people that are afraid of ads, right? When you put your bid amount, so to your point, he was trying to put it at 10,000, but Etsy caps everyone at 1,000. So you can't actually put it.
Maybe, I don't know what he was trying to do per day. It was some crazy.
He probably was. I would put it at $10,000 a day if
you could do it, if it would let you do it. Yeah.
Right. But no, everyone only has 1,000 max. And so why do you want to get it to 1,000? Because even if it doesn't, so let me back up. Even though you put it to 1,000, it's not going to spend 1,000. So with my first company, it would only spend 400 to 600. With my second company, it only spends 150 to 200, which I'm going to explain why that is in a second. So it's likely that it's not going to spend your whole budget, but if it's making sense financially, you actually want it to spend your budget. So
yes. This is another misconception, by the way. I think people do equate setting the limit. You will spend that per day. I think that's a misconception.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, 100%. We'll explain why in a second. But basically, the thing is right. You want to tell the algorithm that even though say you have it at $50, why do you want to put it to 500? Because when you put it to 500 versus 50, even if it's not spending the 50, what you're doing is you're saying that you're willing to outbid your competitor. Right, you're willing to spend more, even though it's not going to spend it.
Right.
So another thing that we have to understand is that the way that Etsy ads bills people is
Mhm.
the absolute safest play that you can play in the media buying world. It's not
Interesting.
like Google ads. It's not like Meta ads. It's not like TikTok ads. When you set your ad budget to $5,000 a day on Facebook, it's going to spend it before 11:59 at night. It's
I
going to
know,
spend
right?
it's going to spend the whole thing, whether or not you made $1 or not. They don't care.
Yep.
Right? Etsy, their charge method is something called PPC. It's called pay per click, which means
Yep.
that you actually had to earn the click in comparison of someone else, right? And then you not only earn that click, but you earn that click on a keyword that most likely lived in your listing. So
Mhm.
the buyer actually had to search for that keyword for you to show up in the first place, which makes that buyer what? The hottest traffic on the internet. It's
Mhm.
not like social media where people are mindlessly scrolling, and they're not going to social media with the intent of making a purchasing decision, right? People are going to Etsy with their wallet open,
Ready to
looking.
buy. Yeah.
Right. And so that makes them the hottest traffic on the internet. You can't
Mm,
get
mm, mm.
hotter traffic than that other than repeat buyers. So people that have
Okay.
already spent money with you before. So when I talk about Etsy ads and I talk about Etsy ads being truly your lowest hanging fruit to more sales,
Hmm.
that's why. And
Okay.
so what you do by the very nature is if you're getting more clicks, if you're getting more add to carts, if you're getting more purchases and you're getting more reviews
Mhm.
because of the ads, what
Mhm.
you're going to see is the organic snowball effect of your store is going to happen 5 times faster than the guy down the street that doesn't want to invest in ads.
Yes.
So now the danger with that is that maybe the guy down the street is happy with his organic sales and happy with making his full margin. And he doesn't feel the effects of this guy over here that's spending money on ads because he's happy with his sales and he doesn't even know that this guy exists, right? But then one day when competition arises and he does start to care because there's so much competition and he can't keep up, this guy has already been way farther down the race than the other guy. He already
Got
has
it.
way more reviews. He already has way more organic indexing. He already has exploded his viral products if he had any, right? So it's just collectively, there's a bigger picture of ads, and more profit is just one of them, but it's also just setting your business up for the long play if you
Got it.
really want to own a business for many years to come.
Mhm.
So that's just like the concepts that I've been like I try to hit home with people. Another thing that's really, I think, scary. Well, not really. I know it's scary. The reason why ads are so scary is because Etsy ads don't give you one metric that actually matters to make a decision in terms of profitability. Right.
Yeah.
That's a huge problem. So people go in there and they look at ROAS and they don't really know what that means. And
Mhm.
they basically look at what they spent versus what they made and then make a decision when really that's not correct. But it's not their
Mm.
fault. It's just that Etsy doesn't give you any metric that matters.
Sure.
Um, and so we can talk about ProfitTree and what we're doing to solve that problem. But ultimately, that's part of the issue. But then another issue is that when I ask people, what are your profit margins? How much room do you even have left over in your sale price to give to a marketing budget? And people
Mm.
normally can't give you that number because they don't know on a per product level how much money they're making. And that is
Okay.
another huge pain point. So when you already don't know how much money you're making, it's really uncomfortable to then think, oh, I wait a second, now I have to give up even more money to this other thing
Correct.
because Hannah told me, right?
Yep.
And
Yep.
so that's really uncomfortable when you visually can't see what's going on with your business. And so, yeah, that was obviously one of the core reasons that we built ProfitTree. I built it initially just to solve my own problems, but we give people that they need to see how much piece of the pie is left in their business to
Mm.
give to a marketing budget. So like in our
Mhm.
shop, if we run a 15% marketing cost percentage, at the worst case, that's what made us that $34,000 extra profit. But that
Right.
15% for my shop might make sense, where for you, it might not make sense. It might need to be less than 10% for it to make sense financially for you, right?
Sure.
But you can't make that decision without seeing it visually, if that
Yes.
makes sense.
Yes, it does. I think there's a couple of looming questions across the board for probably beginners. I would say if there's a moderate to advanced Etsy seller, they probably experimented with the method that you just mentioned, which is what I do. I look at what I spent and I look at what I made and I go, I'm going to turn this off and I'm going to try it on another one. Right? That's what I do. I'll let it go for 2 weeks and then I'm like, this is total crap. I made 2 sales, but I definitely paid more than what the revenue was, and then I'll try it on something else. So we can get into whether that's good or bad in a minute. But I think the more looming question is when. I think that there's lots of different answers I've heard to this question on when do I go and turn them on, and do I turn them on everything, or uh, this is very much specific to beginners. And you've got different buckets of people. You have people that are obviously struggling, and so they're turning to Etsy in the first place to make more passive income. You have people that are just doing it as a little side hobby. They probably have a little bit more money in the game. And then you have your bucket of people that are just investing in other passive income streams, and they probably have more money to put in the game. Most people probably float between need money and just want passive income, somewhere in the middle of there. And they probably just don't know. Now they're hyped because you've just expressed what the potential is. That may not be an immediate payoff, but delaying gratification is always a good thing. So it sets you up for success down the road. But like, does that mean they need to throw up 10 listings and then turn all the ads on? Or what's the method? What's the method?
Okay. So first thing, you mentioned something a few times about 2 weeks, a week. You can't make any decision financially about ads without looking at things month over month. Kind of.
Okay.
We'll explain that too, which also adds to it being scary. But let me back up on the spend thing.
Okay.
There's no wrong answer, right? You just have to understand the pros and cons of doing both. If you want to just go organic first, right, and make organic sales first, your safest play is to only turn on your ads for listings that organically take off first. However, just because something sells well organically, it gives you more confidence that maybe it's going to work, but that still does not mean that financially it makes sense with ads on. Not every listing that makes sense organically, that sells organically, is going to financially make sense with ads on until you test it. So everything is still subject to test. It's just the safest option.
Got it.
Right? And you can do that. Now, if you want to be more aggressive and put it on all your listings, you can also do that. It's completely up to you and your financial circumstances.
Okay.
So it's only and there's no wrong answer. The wrong answer is that you start putting it up to $5, $10, and then all of a sudden you turn it off. And the next week you turn it on. Your goal is to hedge up over time and never go backwards. You only want to go up. Doing that is just messing up your data, and you're confusing yourself and stressing yourself out. The goal with your ads is once you start going up, you don't go back down. So if you want to hedge up $5, $7, $10, $20, that's what you're going to do. And
but you're saying month over month.
Hedging up your budget is one thing, and you can do that as fast or slow as you want.
Okay.
Analyzing your data.
Got it. You're saying whether or not it was good, and should I remove it or take it off or up or okay. That's right. Okay. Got it.
So you put it on for 2 weeks and then you're like, oh, screw this, turn it off, right? You couldn't actually make that decision in 2 weeks because it's likely you didn't collect enough data, right? Maybe you did. I don't know. We'd have to look at it. But ultimately, we can talk about when to turn things off. But you just turn off your whole budget instead of turning individual listings off, which that is what you don't want to do, because now you're just confusing yourself and getting mixed data of not a continuous stream of data in your listings, basically.
Interesting.
And so to answer your questions, some budget is better than nothing. It can go, if you want to go higher, like when I first started, I did $15 a day and I never looked back and just kept going up, right? If you want to go lower, $5 a day for the next 3 months, do that. Whatever is comfortable for you. And the pro of going fast is you spend the money, you collect the data faster, right? The con of going slow is you collect the data slower, but maybe you save some money. Honestly, you have to spend the money anyway to get the data. So it's just how fast or slow you don't want to spend it. True. There's no way around it. Now, in terms of when you turn listings on or off, again, the only thing that matters is it actually making you more profit? And so with ProfitTree now, we're giving sellers a metric called tacos. We're giving people tacos. And essentially this tacos is a percentage that says, out of the amount of revenue that came out of that click, right? This is the percentage that it costed me. So for us, when I gave that $34,000 analogy, right? That was at our marketing cost being at 15% for our store. So that means that on the listing level, we need our tacos to be less than 15% for it to be qualified to spend money to keep on with the ad. So if our listing is not hitting at least a 15% ad cost percentage, AKA tacos, then we're turning it off, because we know at a 15%
on that listing, right?
on that listing.
Okay.
So on the store level, like on the shop level,
Yes.
it was 15%. And that
Yes.
15% set the KPI, the key performance indicator, the standard of what our ad cost percentage, aka tacos, need to be on the listing level. So now all we do in ProfitTree is we go down the list and we look at any listing that's not hitting 15% and we turn it off. Right?
Understood.
That makes sense?
It does. Yes.
Mm-hmm. And so we're trying to make ads as black and white. And the reason why ROAS and just looking at the spend that they give you and the revenue that they give you, the reason why that's not meaningful is because that revenue amount is it's not including your organic revenue. It's not true top line sales or true revenue from the quality of the clicks that listing attracts. We need to look at what it spent compared to total revenue. So inclusive of revenue from directly of the listing from organic, directly from the ad, they clicked on the ad and purchased on the ad, and inclusive of when they clicked on the ad and then they purchased something else. So these 3 revenue streams is what we need to analyze in terms of total sales to pull out that ad cost percentage, because that revenue is the holistic, true number that came from the initial click of that listing. That revenue was the offshoot of all the different types of clicks, whether it was from ad or from organic. And you don't want to turn off a listing if it's performing organically well and the ad cost percentage makes sense. If you're hitting your target tacos, aka ad cost percentage, you don't want to turn off a listing that's performing well, even if the ad revenue sucks. Like it looks like your ROAS is bad. And that's why ROAS is a really misleading metric. And this is the same way that like 8-figure Amazon sellers look at their PPC, by the way. It's the same thing, because they understand what that contribution is doing, right? And, again, the whole thing, you could get a review today from an ad, and that 5-star review gives you more organic sales. You could get more added carts, and now it's showing urgency with your add to carts badge. It could be, there's only a 30-day attribution window. So they could click on the ad today and then they don't buy until Christmas. And now you don't see that revenue included, right?
Oh,
so
Etsy's is a 30-day attribution?
Yeah, it's for the ads.
Oh, that's pretty good. I didn't know that.
Yeah. So there's this whole snowball effect of things that happens with your ads on the highest level. And, unfortunately, Etsy just doesn't give you any way to analyze it. So it makes total sense. And, the real danger, especially with ROAS, with low ticket, like digital assets, like the biggest thing we get is I sell low ticket digital assets. Like my sale price is only $2 or something. And ads don't make sense for me. And yeah, your ROAS are almost always going to look bad. But then strangely, when you analyze tacos, like, wait a second, this actually still makes sense with ads on.
Yeah.
It does make sense. And you don't want to turn it off. And then they turn off all the listings that they're not supposed to turn off. And they're like, oh my God, all my sales died. And they're like, I don't know. I wonder why. But again, it's not their fault. It's no one's fault. It's just that like they don't.
The way that it's presented is perhaps not adequate.
Right.
Yeah. And also if you have a $2 digital product, I would only have a couple of those. I would definitely have more digital products that are like more money than that. Just everybody, FYI, you don't have to throw up clip art packs for $2. People will pay more because I've tried it and it works.
Yeah, exactly. I have a whole theory on that too, but keep going.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I want to ask, because I want to give you some time, obviously, to talk about ProfitTree for those that want to really take it to the next level. But I don't know, because I spend all my time on YouTube teaching our amazing users and followers how to learn Kittl. So I have not had the time to investigate in Etsy Offsite ads. I think that's what it's called. Do you know anything about that? Have you tried it? I don't remember if I tried it or not. I opted in. I don't think it spends anything. I think what happens is if they attribute a sale, it takes a percentage or something. But I remember looking at a sale and it said in my Etsy dashboard, this came from Offsite ads. But I don't know what's happening. Can you shed any light on that? I just haven't had time to investigate it, other than I opted in to like, yes, I would like to do Offsite ads, because I asked some friends and they were like, oh yeah, you just turn it on. I was like, okay.
So
Anyway,
offsite ads and the way that they bill their sellers is actually even more sexy than their regular PPC. So
oh,
I'm a
fire.
100% a proponent of offsite ads. So what offsite ads are doing is it's pushing it to like Google shopping campaigns and like
Yeah,
third
it's
party.
people that are on other sites, right? Yeah,
Correct. So like
yeah.
literally like Google shopping. So and so, by the way, when they charge you,
Mm,
this is crazy. They charge you a flat rate of either 15% if you've done less than 10,000 in the year, or they charge you 12% if you do over $10,000 in revenue within
that's
a
what it
year.
is. Yes,
Right?
'cause you don't actually set a budget or anything.
Right.
Yes.
No. So why is this so crazy? Like people that don't ever know, like never did media buying or whatever, they don't understand how sexy this
Yeah, it's
is.
programmatic. It's good stuff.
And then, by the way, if you get a canceled order or a refund, they actually refund you the 12%, which is just like, what? Like, I can't even believe that you do that. Like, that's not a thing in a
Yeah,
media
it's good
buying
stuff.
world. That's never that you're not going to get that anywhere.
Right.
So the why is 12% or 15% so good? Because if you go out right now and try to run Google shopping campaigns to your Shopify store that has no organic indexing, like the reason you're getting it that cheap is because it's cloaked with an Etsy URL. And the
Mm,
Etsy URL is what? It's a super indexed website on the internet.
yep.
Whereas like your Shopify store that you just launched yesterday that has like 3 visitors a day, right? That 12% would easily turn into 50%
Yeah,
cost per
yeah,
acquisition. And
yeah.
that percent, that 12% is in the media buying world, is something called a cost per acquisition or also tacos. It is your
Yeah,
tacos,
CPA, yeah.
CPA, basically. So yeah, that it's extremely cheap. So to get a sale from a Google shopping campaign at 12% of a charge plus a refund if the order was refunded is absolutely insane. So 100% you want to opt into that.
Yeah, make
But
sure everybody
again,
goes and opts in, like now.
often. And again, the thing though, right? The reason why that 12% is so scary for a lot of people is because
Mm,
they don't know their profit. They don't know the breakdown of their business. So that is why that's really where you start before you even look
mm,
at ads. Like we don't want to talk about ads. We don't want to talk about tacos. We just need to know what your profit margins are before marketing. And that profit margin percentage is going to dictate how strict or how aggressive you're going to be with your ads. But
mm,
that's where we start. What is your profit? Can you give me your numbers? Do you know on after every sale on average, what is your profit margin percentage?
mhm.
That number is going to tell us how much we can give away to ads because
Mm.
ads can kill your business, right? Not just on Etsy, but on Shopify, right?
Yeah, for sure. Oh my gosh, yeah, because if you lead them there and then they don't do anything, man, that's awful.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
Um,
just so interesting to me that I make quite a bit of sales from the digital shop, and they all are not all, but well, I'd say 50% are attributed to offsite ads. I'm like, who the crap is buying digital products like fonts and clip art packs from like offsite ad? But I'm like, hey, if it brings them to Etsy and they buy it, it's just like it's funny because I sell the same things on Creative Market, which is
mm,
a marketplace for like
mm,
digital tools. So it's just interesting that they're not doing that, right? That Creative Market is not like they don't have some sort of method for that. Maybe they will one day, but it doesn't matter to me so long as they go and purchase the item. So
they probably will. Creative market, I think, is a lot younger, right? Or maybe
then
not.
Etsy, oh gosh, yeah, yeah. Then
Okay.
Etsy, I think, yeah,
Yeah.
but they've been
Yeah.
around for a while. But
Yeah.
yeah, okay, great.
Mhm.
I want to give you some time to briefly talk about ProfitTree and what you're doing for the people that want to take their Etsy sales to the next point or the next level because that's the whole point of it, right? It's to help
Yeah.
people make smart decisions. So yeah, you're
For
welcome
sure.
to.
For sure. Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, Profit Tree, like I said, it was designed for my own business. I had 1,600 variations of items and I had no way to see my profit. And, you know, having your profit in your face really keeps you away from vanity metrics. It keeps you away from the feel good metrics when you can see my ad cost percentage is this, my shipping cost percentage is this, my cost of goods sold or my product cost is this, right? When you can see it in your face all the time, it pushes you, it keeps you accountable to tweak the dials and better your business. And so we give you a lot of really cool stuff. Our newest feature is that the ads optimizing feature, right? And so that's where we're gonna be giving people their tacos percentage. So your Etsy ads should become very black and white, right? If you know that you want to hit a 40% profit margin, right? Then that means that your tacos needs to be under X, right? Whatever that means to you.
Mm.
So we're just trying to make it as simple as possible for sellers, because really ultimately on the highest level, every Etsy seller should be running ads, and ideally getting your ads budget to $1,000 a day. Or the budget doesn't mean it's going to spend $1,000 a day.
Right.
So yeah, those are all the things. We have a lot of really cool ideas. I mean, we just launched in April. Software is a whole new thing for us, and it's just been a really, really cool experience. So, and yeah, we do have Printify and Printful integration. So in one click, you just do an integration and all your product costs come in. So you instantly already get to see your profit with Printify and Printful.
Gotcha. And so does that mean like, so in this example right here, so why, I'm trying to figure out why someone would need to connect Printful to ProfitTree if the Printful is already connected to Etsy, and then the Etsy can be connected to ProfitTree.
So the reason why is because, so you connect your account to Etsy, but that's just bringing all your listings, all your shop revenue, all your data, all your ad costs, right? The reason you then need to do an integration with Printify is because Printify holds the product cost, the production cost of all of your SKUs. That information doesn't live in Etsy. So we have to go get that data from Printify so that we can, because ultimately that big variable cost, your product cost percentage, we have to get that into the account to get you your profit, basically.
Understood. Got it. And then I think we do have quite a bit of people that have their own website. I don't know if they necessarily have Shopify. We do have a fair amount of users use Shopify, but I myself use Squarespace because I'm a Squarespace fanboy. So can you give us an idea on when Shopify might be available? And then do you plan to have other integrations like Wix and Squarespace?
Man, the sky is the limit. We don't have a timeline on it, but everything is possible. It's just time and money. Time and money. We need time and we need money, but it's all possible. But I can't give you a timeline on that, unfortunately. But coming soon.
Yeah. Okay. But Shopify is, I mean, it wouldn't be up there, I guess, if you're not already in the midst of it.
Shopify is priority. Yes. Shopify is priority. Yes.
Got it. Sure. Awesome. Okay. Is there anything else that people need to know before they try it out? I mean, obviously, I think you had on there's a 7-day trial.
We can do one better for you. So we can give you, actually, for your followers, we have 30-day trial of the pro plan, and then we also have a special promotion that we can give exclusive to your people. It's not something that we promote publicly on our channels, but we have two plans. We have a starter plan and we have a professional plan. So we can give you a 30-day trial for the professional plan, and we have a special lifetime offer for the starter. We have two plans, but it's a lifetime offer for the starter plan. So it's a lower tier plan, but you get lifetime access to all the features on the starter plan, basically. So I can or I can give you both of those links.
Sure.
And I think that's it.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. Well, everything will be in the description for you all to check out at your leisure. And obviously, please check out Hannah's YouTube channel. I was checking it out earlier this week. Fantastic information, especially for those of you that are in the Etsy world, which I know a lot of you are, or even if you're selling elsewhere and you've thought about adding Etsy, or if you just want to take some of the principles that you learned today and apply them to wherever else, you're welcome to do that as well. So don't forget to check out all of the links down in the description. And also, those of you watching and listening, if you're listening on Spotify, thank you very much for that. But comment down below if you have a question. I'm manifesting comments because I know there will be some. So if there's something that we talked about, comment down below. If there's something that we could go into deeper, or if there's something that Hannah could answer, that's more content that she can make on her channel. I'm sure she'd appreciate that. So please comment down below with your questions about Etsy, ads, scaling designs, all that kind of stuff. We definitely want to know what that is. And of course, if you have just super hot questions you need answered really quick, you can always join our Discord channel. We have some amazing people over there helping in the Discord Kittl community, and it is massive. I think we have over like 15,000 people over there. There's a whole Etsy channel, I think, for that. There's a print on demand channal. So there's channels you can go in the Discord to get your questions answered. So thank you all so much for watching and listening, and we will see you in the next one. Bye.
Bye, guys. Thank you.